Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to talk about London system. What is it, main ideas and main plans in this famous variation. So something really good about London system is that you can play it against basically any defense black can try. So you start with d4 and then you play your London system scam. And as I said, it's going to be very useful basically against anything black plays. You can keep going with your idea. So you can set the pawns like this, like in a triangle. Your bishop is going to be developed outside, the other bishop over d3, and the knights over f3 and d2. That's the way we develop pieces in London. So I think we should see this on the board so we make it clearer. So d4, let's say black plays d5, but as I said, we can use the same development if black plays other lines. We can play knight f3, black plays knight f6, and then we can play bishop f4. Let's assume a main line, for example c5, we can play e3, let's say knight c6, we can develop knight d2, also we can play c3 here, it's probably a little more common. Black plays e6, we develop the knight, and let's assume bishop d6. This is a very common situation where the two bishops are going to be facing. Usually the way to deal with this is going to be just going back to g3, and if they trade here, you're opening the h file and you have some activity over there. Remember, the bishop is also coming over d3, so in general they won't trade after bishop g3. So black castles, you can develop bishop d3. They can try queen e7, wanting to break over e5, improving the bishop on c8, but of course we don't want to let them do that, so we can just play knight e5 here. They might trade on e5, for example. You can just recapture. This position is going to be a little better for white, especially because you have the two bishops on the board. Also, you have a good control and a space in the center. So this is a main line here in London system, but also we can take a look at other variations. Let's assume black plays a little less aggressive. Like, let's assume they develop pieces, but they don't try too much. Like e6, we can play e3, and then let's assume bishop e7. We can just develop pieces like knight d2. They can castle bishop d3, as we said previously. If black plays knight b d7, at this point we can have like two main approaches. We can be really aggressive here, but also we can play a slower chess. That's also something good about London system, that depending on our own style we can play our own approach in London. So if you want to play a little more positionally, you can play like h3, just making sure that his knight is not going to be traded by your bishop, because now you have this square available for the bishop. You can hide the bishop there. So h3, they might be playing c5. Usually when they are threatening c4, we need to play c3 just to make sure the bishop can come back to c2. Not only because this is a better diagonal for the bishop, also because the bishop on c2 is going to help you guard the advance e4, and it's not going to be blocking the rook on e1, as it happens when the bishop goes back to e2. So that's like a general rule in London. When he's threatening c4, make sure your bishop can come back to c2, where the bishop is going to be much better and your pieces are going to make much more sense, and you will be ready to break over e4 anytime soon. So c3 here, let's assume b6, another nomad development move here. We can just castle, let's say bishop b7, and here we can try like a4. And as you can see, this is a very positional middle game. You're trying to break over a5, you're trying to create some weaknesses on the queen side. A very common plan is going to be queen e2, and if you can trade the bishop in the fianchetto, it's going to work really well, because you're going to create some weaknesses over there. And also we need to keep in mind the rook on a1, which is going to be a very interesting piece, especially when you play a5 and you will be threatening to open that file at any moment. Well, that's the positional approach, but also we want to take a look at something a little more aggressive. So instead of just playing h3 in a position like this, you can play something like knight e5. And that is that you're bringing your pieces to the center, but also to the king side. For example, now your knight is also moving, the queen is also moving over f3. And one of the main ideas here is that you could be targeting h7 very seriously in the next moves. Observe that this time we're not playing h3, because our queen could use that square at some point to put pressure on h7 along with the bishop. And also another idea we need to keep in mind is the advanced g4, g5, because we want to get rid of this defender probably the best defender of the castling in this position. So knight e5, let's say they play something like c6, we can bring our queen f3. I'm going to play normal moves for black, but actually not very strong, but very normal moves for black. Like, let's assume rook e8, we can play g4, the idea we were suggesting to get rid of the knight. Maybe they play knight f8 to clear some square for the knight. Well, we can play g5 here. And if they go back to d7, there is already a combination here. We can play at this point knight takes f7, and after king takes f7, we have the discovered bishop c7, and then we are getting the queen. Of course, as I said, we were playing bad moves, but also observe they were logical moves. So it's very easy to play bad moves in London as black. If you don't know the line, if you're not familiar with the position, sometimes logical moves are going to be bad moves for black. So that's also something interesting about this line. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want to see more videos about the London system, check out this one over here. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Thank you guys, like, subscribe, see you on the next.